All right. Good morning. Welcome to the week. 49ers practicing again today. We've got a lot of intel because I talked to the assistant coaches yesterday, and I thought you'd enjoy this. Just stumbled across it online. Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, stat comparison, past two seasons, including 2024. Just a little food for thought. We got food for thought from the 49ers staff yesterday. A lot of people have been asking me about the rookie offensive lineman. Chris Furster, 49ers offensive line coach, was able to talk about the 49ers rookie offensive lineman out of Iowa, Connor Colby. Remember, I did the interview with LeVar Woods, who's now the special teams coordinator of the Iowa Hawkeyes, and he worked with Connor Colby. And one of the main points that LeVar Woods gave was that this guy's a really developed run blocker, probably going to have to work a little bit more on his pass protection. And that's been the book on Connor Colby from so many people. And you watch the tape, and it does seem that he's a better run blocker than a pass protector based on what he did at Iowa. But this is a minor bombshell from Chris Furster talking about Connor Colby and a surprise that the 49ers have unearthed over the first week and a half, 2 weeks of training camp.
That's his strength right now. Really is. He's doing a good job. He's had some troubles in one-on-ones, but not so much in teamwork. When the one-on-one deal is a little different, his technique is different, and he's working on it. But when you put him in the group setting, he's doing a really good job. It's one of his strong suits right now. Getting him to move quick in a run game is not quite. Even though they did it at Iowa, it's not up to par yet. That's where I would say his biggest gap is, and that's what's encouraging, because if you can pass block, that's a huge piece, and he can do that. The one-on-ones haven't shown it. That's been that happens. It's like that sometimes.
Is that a mild surprise? Just talking to some people coming out of Iowa, it was kind of the opposite. They thought that he might be ready as a run blocker, but would need a little bit more seasoning in the past.
Absolutely surprised. I mean, we looked at him too. You didn't get to see a lot of it, and there's a lot of things go into it. But yeah, no, it's definitely a surprise when he walked in. I said, this guy's gonna be able to pass block. I mean, right away you saw it. I saw it in teamwork, saw it in drill work. He's got things to improve and work on. But that was what happened with Dom last year. You walk in, Dom pass block, and you're like, this guy's gonna be fine because he can hold up and pass protect.
So the comparison at the end I thought was really interesting to Dominic Pooney. He said that Dominic Pooney walked in last year and actually showed good proficiency as a pass blocker. He ended up starting day one. Now, we don't expect Connor Colby to start day one, in part because the 49ers have a much better setup than they did last year at guard. Ben Barch is back, and Chris Furster yesterday, what I thought was a refreshingly candid interview, said that Ben Barch is going to be the starter at left guard. And he said that it's his job to lose. And we've seen what's happened on the field. Barch was out with the quad injury, and then as soon as he was cleared from NFI, he returned to the first team role. And yesterday, Chris Furster straight up said that Nick Zakelj did not do enough in the short period of time that Ben Barch was out to begin this training camp to overtake him for that job. So it's Barch's to lose. So the 49ers have a veteran that's going to fill in at left guard for Aaron Banks, a veteran who I think they're very excited about because Barch was good in his short sample size last year. And then they have Pooney himself to protect Brock Purdy at right guard. Pooney last year was a rookie, third-round pick out of Kansas. We knew that he was a tremendously mature player. We knew that he's versatile. He played essentially every single position for Kansas, even center during their spring game. But, a lot of people were skeptical because the 49ers had drafted Spencer Burford the couple years before. And Spencer Burford, even though he started right away, was never a great pass protector. And the right guard position was a problem for the 49ers as far as protecting their quarterback. And until somebody showed up that would prove competent in the pass blocking department, it probably was better to assume that the 49ers would struggle there. Dominic Pooney showed up, and for the vast majority of the season, he was a well above average pass protector. Now, we heard Chris Furster yesterday talk about the fact that Pooney struggled a bit toward the end of the season because the league got a book on him and he didn't fully counter adjust. I fully expect Puni to counter adjust now that he's got a whole offseason under his belt. And I think that he's going to remain an above average right guard. I mean, he entered with a splash. That was one of the better O-line picks in the entire NFL draft in 2024. So they've got Puni at right guard and they've got Barch at left guard. They don't need somebody like Connor Colby to start right away. But the fact that he is on the Puni track as far as being a more polished pass protector than the 49ers might have expected is not only very welcome news for the 49ers, I think it's very surprising news. I thought that was probably the most shocking thing to come out of the assistant coach's press conferences yesterday, because Iowa is a run-heavy team. So the 49ers obviously got George Kittle from there, and this is somebody who caught, 35 passes his entire college career. They did not use George Kittle a lot in the pass game because they don't pass a whole lot at Iowa. So you get a lot of tape at Iowa of guys in the run game. And the 49ers loved Kittle's blocking back in 2017 when they drafted him, and they figured that they could take his athleticism and turn him into a good receiver. And not even the 49ers expected what George Kittle ended up doing. He was a 5th-round draft pick, but obviously the rest was history. With Connor Colby, they looked at his tape in college and they didn't see all too much on the pass game because he's run blocking so often, just with the scheme that Iowa is running. So with Connor Colby, the 49ers saw what they needed to see in the run game, and they said, well, the pass blocking probably needs some work, but they, I guess, didn't see the combinations and the assignments executed by Connor Colby on film at Iowa in the pass game that he would have to execute in team situations with the 49ers. Now they've seen about a week and a half of that, and they are pleasantly surprised by what Connor Colby has been able to bring to the table, pass blocking. Remember that pass blocking, as Förster said, is not just about one-on-ones, where we've seen some struggles from Connor Colby, especially for the 49ers, who have tried to be greater than the sum of their parts up front. It's about communication up front. It's about the help up front. It's about the shadings up front. So you can't really evaluate how good of a pass blocker somebody is until he's there with his 4 teammates, until he's there in a team situation, until you see his football IQ. And that's what Chris Förster's getting at. He's getting at the fact that they think that Connor Colby is wiser than expected, more mature than expected when it comes to pass blocking in a team setting, with 4 other offensive linemen near him, around him, with the offense operating the way that it will be operating in an actual football situation. He probably still has some work in those one-on-ones. It doesn't look like he's a dominant one-on-one player. And this was a 7th-round pick, so I don't think anybody expected him to be a dominant one-on-one player right out of the gate. But it does appear that they've got a football player, somebody with some smarts about him that they think can develop into a good team pass protector. And they already saw the run blocking. They actually think that he's got more to work on when it comes to NFL run blocking than pass blocking, which might be a similar boat that Dominic Puni was in last year. So keep an eye on this entire situation. I could even show you the depth chart to illustrate where the 49ers might be as far as the offensive line. Let's get this up on the screen. Let's get Förster out of there and put this right here. You could see the starting line is set, and this is really good for the 49ers and for Brock Purdy, because continuity is going to be the best thing possible for any offensive line, especially in this day and age. I mean, I talk about the fact that Connor Colby is impressing the 49ers within the context of team blocking. Well, team blocking is going to be a lot better if you've got the same pieces in there year over year working together. And the 49ers now will be able to essentially bring back their best starting 5 from last year, because I think Ben Barch actually outplayed Aaron Banks in his limited playing time. So Trent Williams on the left, Ben Barch, Jake Brendel, Dominic Puni, and Colton McKivitz. Connor Colby makes the 53. I think they like where he's headed right now. And then we'll see what they do at the tackle position behind Williams and McKivitz. Andre Dillard is currently hurt. If he comes back in time and shows that he can be the swing tackle, then you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But as of right now, Spencer Burford, as Förster told us, is specifically filling in for left tackle, and Austin Pleasance is specifically filling in for right tackle. Meanwhile, Nick Zakelj is kind of your swing guard. He can play left guard or right guard, and he could also work out for the center position. Matt Hennessy is probably your backup center. Does he make the 53? I think Zakelj is ahead of Matt Hennessy in the pecking order because he's got more guard versatility, so probably not, but injuries can still happen. Drew Moss, they like Drew Moss as well, probably more of a practice squad projection, but again, the numbers won't be settled here for nearly another month for San Francisco. I've got Austin Pleasance on here 2 times. Erase Austin Pleasance. I don't think Austin Pleasance is going to make the 49ers original roster unless we see something extend with Andre Dillard, and then the 49ers are going to have to reshuffle the deck at that swing tackle position. So that was the really good intel from Chris Furster on the tackle position, on Connor Colby, obviously on the starter at left guard in Ben Bartch. It's overwhelmingly likely that it's going to be Bartch. I thought that Furster's interview was extremely insightful yesterday, more than we usually get at this assistant coach's press conference before the start of the season. Then we had a chance to talk to the defensive coaches, where I hung around Gus Bradley for the vast majority of the time. He's the 49ers assistant head coach, former head coach himself. His son now plays for the team, Carter Bradley. Super proud of his son, obviously. He's the 4th string quarterback for the 49ers. But the reason I wanted to talk to Gus is because he was the original defensive coordinator of the Legion of Boom back in Seattle, back in 2012. He worked with Robert Saleh in those early days. Saleh was his linebackers coach in Jacksonville following that stint in Seattle. Now Gus has come back to the Seattle tree, except that things have been set up differently. Robert Saleh is now his boss. But the way I look at it is that the 49ers have 2 former head coaches atop their defense. And I think that it's an evolving defense schematically. I've already told you, I'm watching practice. I'm seeing more blitzes from the 49ers. I've noticed that they've signed somebody like Jason Pinnock, who played for Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator, former defensive coordinator of the New York Giants, who loves blitzing. Well, Jason Pinnock had 6.5 sacks and was PFF's top graded safety in terms of pass rushing for the New York Giants. The 49ers have a blitzer, and their new safety spot, the 49ers have been blitzing D. Winters. They've been blitzing Fred Warner at practice. Last year, Kyle Shanahan thought the defense was too vanilla, especially in its biggest moments under Nick Sorensen. So they got rid of Nick Sorensen. They brought back Robert Saleh, but Saleh never blitzed a lot during his first go-round with the 49ers. However, defenses evolve. Coaches evolve. Personnel changes. A lot's different now than when the 49ers first employed Saleh from 2017 to 2020. So here I am watching some of these schematic wrinkles at practice from the 49ers, and I'm noticing what I'm telling you about the blitzes. And, I also will note that D. Winters, who's likely going to play a ton of snaps for the 49ers this year, essentially has won the linebacker 2 competition. He logged a lot of anticipation sacks in college at TCU. Sacks where they didn't even call a blitz, but he sensed that, okay, that there's an opportunity here, and he got into the backfield to deliver. So he's really good at pressuring the backfield as well. Anyway, I see all of these pieces, and it causes me to ask Gus Bradley about the defensive evolution of the 49ers and what these blitz-friendly pieces might mean for how Robert Saleh, somebody whom he knows really well, might call a football game.
Right now, where we're at, our package is we're trying a lot of different things. And to see more so, like, what is our personality on defense? And we might ask guys to do different things to make sure that we utilize all their skill set. Hey, we played this coverage. Let's see if he can do it. Boy, he's really thriving in that. Let's maybe take a look at doing more of that. Or, no, that didn't work. That's not his strength. Okay, good. Now we know. And eventually we'll pare it down to where it's really confined what we're going to do. And I think, like, to bring up your point, like, who's the good blitzers? Who's the guys that can get after the quarterback? Because it is about who can affect the quarterback. So I think that's, part of Robert's deal is to say, all right, let's have a lot of defense up right now as far as trying to figure out what these guys do well and then pare it down.
All right, that fires me up because it means I'm going to learn a whole heck of a lot over the course of the next month. It's a perfect table setter here for what's coming, not just this week, which is going to be loaded with good 49ers stuff, but over the course of this entire August. This week, the 49ers practice today. They practice tomorrow. They have got a walkthrough on Wednesday. That means they're taking these joint practices or this one joint practice with the Denver Broncos on Thursday very, very seriously as far as what they're going to be implementing. It should be fun out there on the field to see San Francisco practice against another team, apply some of these schematic wrinkles against another team, and then have the chance to play a game also, a preseason game against the Broncos on Saturday. The way that I think it's going to work is that the starters, your first teamers, are going to get the majority of the action on Thursday at the joint practice. And then a lot of the young guys, a lot of the depth is going to be showcased in the game on Saturday. Then they're going to run the same drill, but maybe with a slightly different setup as far as division of labor between the practice and the game next week against the Raiders in Las Vegas. So when you hear Gus Bradley talk about Robert Saleh having the entire table open, like for ideas, for experimentation, for it goes hand in hand with the blitzes that I think that we've talked about and how the 49ers have attacked, and it's been a little bit different than what I've seen from Robert Saleh's first go round, where the 49ers were primarily just rushing 4, dropping back into the cover 3. The coverages have also, I think, been diversified. In 2019, for example, this was already during Saleh's first stint. He brought in Joe Woods to be the DB coach, and they started running a whole lot more quarters, cover 4 on the back end. So they moved away from exclusive cover 3 usage during his first stint. Now the coverages will probably be even more diverse. You might even see some cover 1 from San Francisco at a higher rate. They were able to do that with Jimmy Ward. Well, somebody like Jason Pinnock, he had 6.5 sacks for Wink Martindale with the New York Giants, but he is also a former cornerback. Played for Robert Saleh as a corner, as a rookie in New York back in 2021. Means he can come down and he can cover, and you leave one safety deep. And if you leave one safety deep and Jason Pinnock can cover like a corner, it's probably not going to be Pinnock. He's probably going to come and take care of one of the slot receivers. I mean, all this stuff that the 49ers can do. Plus, when Pinnock is closer to the line, he can also threaten blitz. You don't know if he's going to cover. You don't know if he's going to blitz. Saleh can experiment with all of this stuff over the course of the next month. He already is, but now he's going to have another team in the Denver Broncos coming in. He's going to get to practice against the Raiders. Neither of these teams is on the 49ers schedule. He's going to have preseason games to apply some of this. He can keep some of it in his back pocket if he doesn't want to show it on tape. But I think the great thing about the joint practices is that they're not on television. So with the joint practices, you can try some of these schematic wrinkles that you actually think might be really, really good in a regular season game. You can put them out there, and the stuff is not going to circulate the way that it would if you put out one of your best blitzes or some of your best coverages in a preseason game. I think that's why these teams really, really like the joint practices, because you can get honest work in without broadcasting what you're doing to the entire NFL. So that's going to be this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. The 49ers situation entering this week, you can see a lot of injury shading here. But as I said a couple days ago, it's not necessarily a dire situation for the 49ers injury-wise. They're going through camp. They're going through the dog days the way that any NFL team does. Most of these injuries are relatively minor. You could probably even say everything except for the ACLs are relatively minor, although I'm not exactly sure where Yetur Gross-Matos is at. We haven't seen him yet. He's on that PUP list for the 49ers, and I think that's going to be a big addition when he does come back. That might even be one that we check in on today with Kyle Shanahan. So the 49ers will practice today, and they'll practice Tuesday, and then they want to have as robust of a roster as possible for when the Denver Broncos come in on Thursday. Last year, the 49ers had to cancel their one joint session with the New Orleans Saints, they are not nearly as beaten up this year. 49ers are in much, much better position this season injury-wise than last year. They've had the long off-season of runway. Of course, they're dealing with some hamstrings, some minor wear and tear, which every team does at this point in training camp. They did sign another receiver because I think that's the worst position right now as far as unavailability. They signed Robbie Chosen yesterday, and they also signed a new offensive tackle in Isaiah Prince. I've actually got to make that adjustment on the depth chart. I haven't added Isaiah Prince, but he's going to be helping the 49ers get through some of these camp practices. You need the bodies. You need to stay as fresh as possible. And I need at least one question here before I head down to Santa Clara. Invader 49ers says, I predict Connor Colby will be the starting left guard at some point this season. Yeah, I've said that I think he's going to start a game or two. Like, this was my prediction right after they drafted him. But my prediction was based on the fact that I thought that he was just an advanced run blocker based on what he did at Iowa, and that, injuries happen and the 49ers would need to plug him in at some point. It was just a logical kind of thing. When I hear Chris Furster talk about the pass blocking and Dominic Puni, I'm like, oh, wow, that's a twist. The 49ers don't have a needed spot for him to start at right now, though. With Barch healthy and with the right side operated by a healthy Dominic Puni, everything is good for the 49ers. But obviously, such realities can change. Scotty asks, what are the likely edge and interior D-line players by down and distance to start the season? So this is a good question to finish up on. Start the season, your likely edge players to man the base package are Nick Bosa and Mykel Williams. Then if you're going to go to a pass rushing package, so something that's obviously third and long or even second and long or even third and mid, if you want that pass rusher in there, if the defense is not running, you can move Bryce Huff into a defensive end spot, kick Mykel Williams inside. And then the question is, who's going to be your pass rushing defensive tackle? If the season started today, I don't think it'd be Alfred Collins. Maybe you toss in Kevin Givens, Yetur Gross-Matos, if he's healthy. I think they'd love to run him as part of a NASCAR package on the inside. So Mykel on the inside, somebody like Yetur Gross-Matos is a lot like Mykel, I think is going to be a versatile player for the 49ers moving outside to inside in pass rushing situations. Of course, you've got, some other rookies too. You also have CJ West, who's showing, I think, a little bit more pass rushing pop than we initially expected, but he'll probably start as a firm first down pass rusher before the 40. He's 320 pounds, and I think they're going to go lighter with a NASCAR package in later situations. All right, this has been fun. It's time for me to head down to Santa Clara. Any more questions? We got 500 people watching in the morning. I like that. Good little morning show. Remind you that Brock Purdy is pretty damn good. Just saw this online today and thought you guys would get a kick out of it. Could even take off there we go. It's a good way to finish, isn't it? We'll talk to you guys soon.